This episode was brought to you by Big Moose. Find out about the 1 Million Project at bigmoosecharity.co. Pals, greetings. Greetings once again and welcome to another episode of Everything Endurance. Your second of the summer, in fact, and I'm here today to talk to you about the summer spine. Anyone who's listened to this podcast for any length of time will be well aware that the spine race is like Christmas for me, and I'm lucky in that I get to experience Christmas twice a year. We've just experienced the summer edition of Will Christmas. And that's what we're going to be talking about today, which you've no doubt picked up on from the title of the podcast. Now, convention would seem to dictate at this point that we would talk to the winner of the men's race and the winner of the women's race. And we have got Chris Cope lined up for you today. Not Sue Straw, however. Now, I did try and get hold of Sue. So if this is you hearing this and this is you finding out that my emails have been going into your junk mail folder, then apologies for that. We're not the paparazzi and I didn't want to hound you, and I'm here if you want to chat. It'd be great to talk to you. If, however, you are one of the well-adjusted people who doesn't feel the need to talk about their achievements on the podcast circuit, then know that you have our congratulations. That was an outstanding effort. And we'd love to see you back in Edale again. So congratulations, Sue. But that's not who we're going to be talking to today. The link between the runners that I'm presenting to you today is slightly tenuous. I would say the link being that the mountains they had to climb in preparing for their own spine race event this summer were a little higher than other people's for their own reasons. With Chris Cope, that reason being type 1 diabetes, which we will talk about a little in the podcast interview I do with him. And that's something he was diagnosed with in his teens. And I think there's a fair amount of evidence out there to say that he's been managing that extremely well. Winner of the Summer Spine Race much. With Mel, it was a little different, a little more sudden. Mel was the winner of the Montane Summer Spine Challenger South in 2023 and came back this summer and came second in the same race after an extremely eventful year in which she quite suddenly developed Chiari malformation, which I've just almost mispronounced again and which you will hear me absolutely fail to pronounce during the interview. Sudden, acute, surgery, rehab. Not an easy journey, but came back and came second in the Challenger South once again. Both really interesting conversations. I absolutely loved chatting to these two. So I'm not going to bore you by trying to tell their stories for them any longer. Let's go straight into our first interview. Good afternoon then, Mel Sykes. Mel, how are you doing?
I'm good, thanks, Will. How are you?
Yeah. Very, very well. Thank you very much. Excited to be talking to you. Like, for anyone who's listening to or watching this and is part of, if you ever end up in Twitter, you should know who Melly Woo Woo is. I feel like I have a vague idea of what your running exploits are most of the time through that. And I love following you on Twitter. You're just great fun in there. And it's great to have you here to talk about the spine race, because you just had an exceptional time on the summer spine race. Came second. Congratulations. So you've had a good while to come down now from that.
Yeah.
We feeling fully recovered, I take it?
I feel like I have. It always takes longer than you think. I think you feel like you feel all right after a race, but then as soon as you try and do well, you know that you're not recovered. But yeah, I took my feet a little bit because it wasn't very summery this year's spine race, was it?
No, not hugely. No.
No, not very summery. So it took the feet a little longer to recover than it normally would, I think. But yeah, all good. No lasting damage, which is always good. And a new friend in Jason, who I ran with this year.
Oh, of course, yeah.
Yeah, that's always a bonus coming out of it with new running friends.
I love that. Yeah. Even when you're up at the front in these races as well, you guys get plenty of time to chat to each other out there, which I just think is absolutely awesome. And, I'm skipping ahead a little bit here, but what the hell? the community side of ultra running seems to be a big draw for you. Like, if looking back at your Twitter, if you're not out there running something, you're out there behind the scenes serving teas at a checkpoint somewhere. Is the impression I get? Would you say that's a fair
Uh,
assessment?
Oh yeah, definitely. On any weekend where I've not got a race in, I try and go and help out at a race as well. Just because you just meet like-minded people that way, don't you? And get to see more people, and it's good to help out at races as well, so that when you're doing them, you know what like you want off the checkpoint as well, and what they're gonna do for you, and then vice versa. So, oh yeah, I love it. Just love being around it.
Yeah, excellent. Well, you can
Yeah.
tell you always seem to be having a great time. You're one of those runners where if I find out you're going to be knocking about at the start line, I'm like, oh, I'm going to go and find Mel then. Like, aside from anything else, she won't mind me shoving a camera in front of her. It's always useful. But yeah, so I've already been guilty of skipping ahead a bit. I'm now going to skip back a fair way if you don't mind. Like,
Yeah.
I've seen your sort of social media over the last couple of years, and I know you've spent a fair amount of time on the Pennine Way. It's obviously a draw for you, and the spine race itself. Let's go back before that. Like, what was your journey up until this point? Because I only really know you through that connection with the spine. Well,
Yeah, yeah.
when did you get into this whole mess of ultra running, and what brought you here?
Um, I think it's like, oh, you just like anyone, you just kind of gradually fall into it as you get a bit older, maybe. But I've always run. I ran me and I think someday Natalie Y2, we both
Oh
ran
yeah.
for junior school and high school. So from teenagers, we ran for our local school. We both ran for West Yorkshire cross country. And then you go through like your late teen period where running just fades off a little bit while you're doing other stuff. And then I got back into it. Um, I don't know, probably like late 20s, did a couple of road marathons, into triathlon for a little bit, then back out of that. And yeah, just a little bit of everything. And then as you get slower, as you get older and slower, you just start to go a bit further. So that's what's happened.
We won't refer to it as becoming slower. Maybe becoming more tactically astute.
Yes, oh
Becoming
yeah,
wiser.
yeah, wiser. Yeah, we'll go with that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's amazing. Also, I'd completely forgotten that Nat's White connection as well. So, hello there to Natalie as well.
Yeah.
So, I don't know whereabouts you're based, but I get the impression you're quite connected to the Pennine Way. You seem
Yeah.
to be somewhere there or thereabouts quite a lot of the time. So, have you got a sort of relationship with the Pennine Way older than your relationship with the spine race?
Oh yeah, definitely. I live in Home First, so I'm just below
Ah,
sort of Black Hill and where Nicky's Food Bar is. All that section's my local section. So I'd walked and run up and down that quite a bit before the spine. Before I did any of the spine races, I used to go up and watch the winter and summer ones. The people come through and think, "They're crazy buggers. I'll never be doing that." And then you find yourself there, don't you? At some point.
yeah, so
But
they
yeah,
say. Don't.
don't watch.
I'll stick behind the scenes. It's
Yeah.
too dangerous on your side. Yeah. Is that how you ended up gravitating towards the spine race in the first place? Then is that what brought you onto that start line?
Yeah, yeah, going up and standing at the gate just off Black Hill a couple of years, watching people come through, and like I say, at time you don't think that you'd ever get into doing something like that. And then I started doing, I think I did 50K. I can't remember what year it was, 2017 maybe, were my first like over marathon distance, and then sneaked up to the 50 miler, and then thought, oh, I wonder if I could just have a go at the spine. So yeah, I got into it that way, and then through meeting people at the ultra races, you find out more and more people that have then done the spine or volunteered on it. So they give you a couple of little bits of nugget of information as well, don't they? So you always end up taking a little bit from them, and then they plant the seed. They plant the little seed there that makes you think, do you know what? I could give it a go.
Absolutely. People don't realize that dot watching is risky business. This is
Yeah,
this is how it
yeah,
gets you, and you are proof right here. All you had to do was be too close to the spine race, and the gravity pulled you in. And
Yeah, yeah,
it
it got
seems to
me.
do that with everybody who gets anywhere near it. Sooner or
Yeah.
later, you get dragged in and you find yourself on a start line all of a sudden. I hear. Yeah. Speaking of spine start lines, again, I've skipped ahead. We haven't talked about you doing so well this summer, but you've got the big spine ahead of you as well, haven't you? You're going to be
I
coming back
am.
in January.
I am, yes, for the winter, for the full distance in the winter, which I
Yeah.
think for me personally, I know some people prefer to do the summer first and then go into the winter one, but I struggle with the heat. Obviously, we're living on near the Pennine Way, and in the Pennines, it's pretty miserable most of the year. So I'm more used to running in bogs. So I think the winter one for me personally feels like it'd suit me better. But you have to be quick with the finger when entry opens because you can't believe this. So many
It's like
people that want
Glastonbury.
to. Yeah, you can't believe so many people want to do something like that, but they're all on it. So yeah, luckily got in for this January coming.
Amazing, amazing. So I'm sure I'm going to see you all over the Pennine Way a lot more on your social media over the next few months
Definitely,
as well, which is
definitely.
I'll be looking forward to that. And again, Melly Woo Woo on Twitter. Uh, so this summer, I was so excited to see you at the start line, Needale. And I said before I started recording, like, you are one of those runners where I hear, oh, Mel Sykes is going to be there. I'm like, oh, class. I'm going to go and find her. But you coming back felt really important this time around because, again, from your social output, I knew that since you'd won the Summer Spine Challenger South the year before, you'd been through a lot. What I think you colourfully referred to a few times as your brain falling out over the course of that
Yeah,
12 months,
yeah.
which is amazing. And I really don't know all the ins and outs of. It sounds pretty bad. So what what is it that happened there? Because you came back this summer, and I wasn't sure what to expect. I
And
when
I
you hear
wasn't.
somebody's no, I bet, and
Yeah.
you were so sure as well. You were so adamant with me. I'll be taking it easy. It's been a weird year. I'm not going to go too fast. And I told everyone around me that you were lying, and lo and behold, you'd come second the next time I saw you. Um, so something obviously went very, very wrong in that 12-month period, but then something towards the end of it seems to have gone very, very right. What did we all miss there?
But I know, just the weirdest thing. And when I read about it now and read about the condition that I had, I still can't really believe that it happened because it was actually this time last year because we went out to Chamonix and that's this week, isn't it?
Yeah,
Again, and the first time I went to the doctors with the symptoms starting for the Chiari was the week before we went out to Chamonix last year. So it's just about a year ago when it first went a little bit wrong. So it just started with when I was driving the car in front, I could see two of them. So I thought, oh, that's a bit weird. But you
mhm,
just kind of put it off for a little bit, don't you? Because you don't expect, you think, oh, you're getting into your 40s, it might just be your eyesight going. Went to the opticians a few times and they kept testing my eyes and ordered me some glasses. So when we were out in Chamonix, we were laughing really because when I had the double vision, I had to shut one eye, and my friends that I were out with, they were all just laughing about, "Oh, you'll get your glasses when you get back." Got back, got my glasses, and they made absolutely no difference at all. The glasses that they'd made me. So then I went back to the doctors. They'd banned me from driving then, and for work, I do community visits for podiatry. So I had to
right.
go off work then because I couldn't drive. And then over the week that I was off work, all the other symptoms just came on over that week. All my left arm went numb, left leg went numb, speech was slurred, left side of my face went numb. Um, really weird and scary symptoms when only
Absolutely,
sort of
that's
4
that's like
weeks
the stuff from the advert, the Act Fast advert for someone having a stroke.
for
These are
strokes. Yeah,
serious symptoms. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And then one day I went out, I was going out for little walks from home, and I were in the wood behind my house, and I were having to hold on to a tree and then focus on the next tree and walk between it and grab hold of that. And then I thought, oh, this definitely ain't right. Um, Obviously, I probably should have known before that it wasn't right, but I didn't feel poorly. That's the weird thing. So you've got all these weird symptoms, but I didn't feel physically unwell, which is a bit of a that's what's hard. If you feel
Yeah.
physically poorly, you know that there's something wrong. But I didn't. I didn't feel poorly. It was just all these really weird neurological symptoms. And then yeah, ended up in Calderdale Royal Hospital end of middle of September. Then I got admitted there while they did the MRIs, and it was so it's something called Chiari malformation,
Thank you.
which you've
I
you
did
probably have
try and
never heard
pronounce it
of.
on the run-in, and
Did you?
I decided to leave it to you. Yeah.
Yeah, Chiari malformation. So it's quite common, and the surgeon said to me if they MRI'd 100 women, they'd probably find this malformation in 85% of people, but you just go through your life and it never becomes a problem until the malformation, which is when your cerebellum basically drops out of the bottom of your skull. Once that connects with your spinal cord, um, all everything that controls, so all the stuff, your balance, your speech, and that becomes a problem because it stops the flow of spinal fluid from around your spinal cord, and that's what had happened. My malformation had dropped so low, it had plugged the gap between my spinal column and my skull.
Wow.
I
Yeah.
know,
Hence,
I know.
my brain is falling out, which is when I
Yeah,
first became aware of it on Twitter. That's,
yeah,
I mean, amazing. Amazing's a weird word for me to have chosen there. I didn't know anything about this condition really before you absolutely brought it to my attention, and that must have been that must have been a scary moment for you. You
yeah.
know, as a
Uh,
person, anybody I think would be a bit scared at that point. But also I know it feels like a smaller thing in comparison, but as a runner, you're doing really well, and being active is a big, big part of your life. And
yeah.
suddenly the control system's not working right. So, I mean,
Mm.
what were you going through there?
Well, actually, when I finally got the diagnosis, it was a bit of a relief in
Oh,
a
good.
way, because I spent 8 days in Calderdale Hospital having various different MRIs. And they every day they were coming to tell me, oh, it could be this. One was a stroke, one was MS. So there was a couple of different conditions that had the same neurological symptoms. So when I saw the neurosurgeon in Leeds and he said, it's this Chiari, we can operate. We're not sure. Obviously, everyone's different for the recovery, but hopefully it should be a full recovery. It were more of a relief that I knew it was something that could be sorted out. And then I would just I were really looking forward then to going in for the operation, which is really weird knowing that you're going in for somebody slicing your head open and looking at your brain. But
Yeah, well, when you put it that way, yeah.
yeah, but it just got to the stage where I was just so grateful that they'd managed to find something that potentially could be sorted out. And the more research I've done into it, we're so lucky we're having the NHS in this country because a lot of people in America, they can't afford the surgery to have it done, so they're just living with all those symptoms, which is just unbelievable, really.
Oh, wow. Yeah,
Mm,
I mean, you're going tree to tree, trying not to fall over, taking a few steps at a time. To think you'd have just had to have carried on like that.
I know, it
That's
just don't bear thinking about.
Yeah, no, absolutely not. So, what I can imagine surgery for something like that is pretty serious business, like a long procedure with quite a lot of recovery. So,
Yeah.
when over this bonkers 12 months between Summer Spine Challenger South successes, whereabouts does the surgery come, and how long is the actual recovery from it? When did you get to be able to get out there and be yourself on the trail again?
The surgery was ended up being the 16th of October last year, and I was in Leeds for a week. The operation took, I think, just over 7 hours. So it's a fair old shift.
Yeah.
Obviously, you don't know all about it yourself because one minute you're chatting to the anaesthetist, and the next minute you're waking up and like 8 hours had passed all in, but you don't know anything about it. It's really, really, really weird. But I came round in hospital then for a few days after, out of hospital and shipped off to my parents because I live on my own. So my mum were coming in with tea and toast every day. But I think I had 2 months then staying with my parents. managed to get out walking again after about 4 or 5 weeks, just gradual walks. And my friends and some of my work colleagues were absolutely brilliant. They were coming to collect me, take me out for to cafes, and then coming out for little walks with me. Some of my running friends as well coming out back up onto Pennine Way, just walking, and then started running again. End of Janish this year, which still is baffling to say that then the spine were in June.
Yeah.
Really, really weird. Yeah, I just started plugging away, and it took a little bit for the balance to come back. I think I've still got a little bit of the double vision, so I still wear glasses for driving. But it is getting better. But yeah, the balance were the main thing that took. But the surgeon said to me, the more you can do it, and the more you can recreate these nerve pathways, the better. So it was just a case of forcing yourself out to do it, really, to get going again, all with the rehab.
Yeah, well, I mean, he was talking to an ultra runner there, so no problem with that. I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah,
you're going to be
stubborn.
out on the slab skating around up there. Again, you balance, that's something you're going to develop fast.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
I suppose at least with sections like that of the spine race, everyone's going to be falling over half the time anyway. So
Yeah, they are. Yeah, well, no different. No different. I probably felt less actually than I would have done if I hadn't have had that done. It might have balanced me back out.
wow. Well,
I
I mean,
know.
that's absolutely incredible. Like those timescales are bonkers. What
Mm,
that left you with there was less than 6 months
mm.
to sort of get back in there and retrain those bits of your brain and get back to doing what you do. So I'm gonna, move a little bit forwards again. I'm gonna go back to that point I mentioned, standing in the car park in Edale and you saying, I'll be taking it steady. It's been a big year. How were you really feeling then? Like it did. I mean, you were obviously in physically a pretty good place because we saw what you were capable of over the couple of days after that conversation. But did you know you were? Like, where was your confidence? How were you feeling about the race this summer?
I knew that I'd finish, barring injury. I knew that I'd finish because I think you've got to be with these races mentally, mentally quite strong, uh, stubborn, all the stuff that makes us ultra runners. So I knew I would get to the finish. To finish where I did was a complete surprise. Um, and I didn't really know. I had been doing some running again, but I've been doing more walking. Um, Obviously with the rehab from the surgery, so a lot of the training for it was done just walking, just a lot of long walks, walking with my backpack on, and yeah. So I really didn't know. I did know that I'd finished, but I thought that I'd be a lot further than I would. Um, so last year when we did it, we booked a hotel for the Sunday night, and I'd actually said to my other half this time, "Oh, don't book a hotel for Sunday night because I won't be finished until into Monday."
Mm.
So yeah, it were a complete surprise. But I think endurance, you obviously keep some endurance longer than you keep speed, maybe with training. I'm not sure. And obviously, I've run a long time. It's not that I'd only been doing it a few years. I've run since
Yeah.
school, so everything from the endurance that you build up as you get older, that was obviously still there. And I'm sure I could have walked it all the way and got to the finish. But yeah, I really didn't know because I get some blooming stick for that interview that we did that we did before Spy. I have had so much stick for that. But genuinely, when we did that, I didn't know. I was expecting to get to the finish within the cut-off, but nowhere near in the time. And obviously with Jason that we did, it were just unbelievable.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I had every reason to believe you at the time, and I do understand why you said it. Like, I'm not going to give you any stick for that because after what you've been through. But all I can say is I came away from that conversation sure that you were actually going to do fine. Like you just seemed absolutely yourself. I don't know what I'd expect to see in terms of a difference or whatever, but you just had exactly the same character you've always had. And I think you touched on something there, which maybe does come from the sort of endurance events that you've done, but you hadn't lost that resilience. Whatever you might have lost physically during that recovery period and everything else, you still had the same mindset that had carried you through 50 milers or 100 milers before. You've been through that process of being in a hole physically and figuring your way out of it and carrying on anyway, like all endurance athletes have to some extent. Like,
Yeah.
do you think that played a little into how you managed having this sort of, I've lost the name, I was going to try and pronounce it then, I had it saved up, Mel, I was going to go for it.
Chiari.
Yeah, Chiara, thank you.
The Chiari.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I'm sure it does. Because when I went back to see the surgeon, I'd actually told him, because I'd originally entered for the summer the Challenger North, or that was my plan, to do the Challenger North in June this year, to then hopefully go into the
Oh,
full
yeah.
distance at some
Step
point.
up.
Yeah, so I dropped down to the Challenger South, and I actually when I went for my review with the surgeon, I said, "Oh, what are the chances?" And he was just like, "No chance, absolutely no chance of me even getting to the start line." He said people they're not running even 6, 12 months after that kind of off, and certainly not 100 miles. Um, but I think just recovery from anything, operations, you've got to keep that mindset as well. You've got to want to do it. You've got to push yourself to do it, to do the recovery. And I think being positive mentally and knowing that you've got an aim to go for definitely helps with recovery. I'm sure it does. He couldn't believe it, the surgeon, when I went back to when I told him what I had planned. Could see him rolling his eyes, thinking, good luck with that. But I did find him on Twitter, and when the Spine posted about my finish, I did tag him in it. So hopefully he'll have seen that.
Oh, I hope so. I really hope
Yeah.
so. Because I can imagine in that moment, he's like, right, so I gaffer taped your head back together for this. You're now going to go out and pound through 108 miles. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely amazing. I really, really hope that surgeon read it and appreciates that, because, yeah, that's absolutely incredible. It's what you said now earlier in this conversation, really, that it's only from looking back through the medical notes now and the letters that were sent around that you realize how serious that was. At the
Mhm.
time, you just seemed to take this in your stride, like particularly bad weather on one of the fells, like, oh, right,
Yeah.
okay, that's pretty terrible. I better adjust my plan a bit. But, you just kept going. And
Yeah.
I think that's amazing.
Yeah, you just think that this is what's happening. You can't do anything about what's happening to you, but you can affect the outcome and how you recover by being positive and trying to do the things that you know will make yourself better. There were a lot of times post off, obviously, that you don't put on social media, when I'd be sat at home with my little squeezy ball to try and get the feeling back in my left hand, and doing the exercises and just doing them over and over again every day, with the double vision. When I saw the neuro ophthalmologist, he was saying to focus on something in the distance that you can see two of, and try and pull both images back together. So there were a lot of times of just staring out the bedroom window, looking at one of the chimney pots and trying to force them back together. But obviously, none of that goes on social media,
No,
because it's a little boring, isn't it, for people? But
no.
it all goes, like I say, it's all problem solving, isn't it? And I think with ultra running and long distance running, it all ties together a little bit.
Yeah, and I think, as much as I'm trying to keep this compact and a nice short interview, I think I'm really glad that you've brought stuff like that up, because it'd be easy to then look at this and go, wow, Mel's invincible. What an incredible attitude. You can bounce back from anything. But actually, there's a lot of hard work in there, a
Mm.
lot of training and knuckling down and having to stare at that bloody chimney until there's just one of them. Like,
Yeah.
I can imagine, again, there's a kind of patience that you have built up over time that helps you out there. And I just think, yeah, that's absolutely amazing. What a training cycle that 12 months was. You know?
Yeah, yeah. Mentally and physically training.
So, how are you feeling now about the spine race coming up in winter? This is amazing. You can just think about the training now, right? You can knuckle down and do your thing.
Yep. Yeah, knuckle down and do my thing. Trying to get everything together for the kit list, which is almost as bad as doing the training itself. Every time I look at it, I think, oh no, I need some more of them. Just getting out onto Pennine Way, there'll be a lot of walking, a lot of everything that I've been doing all year, really. Um, but I'm just looking forward to it. I can't wait. Just can't wait for the race now for January. I hope it don't come round too soon because I've still got a lot of work to do. But I just cannot wait to for the start of it, really.
No, and I mean, we're all looking forward to it from this side as well. Again, what we
Oh, I
just saying
bet.
before we started recording, there is a great field of women coming up in winter 2025. You very much
Unbelievable.
included, and it sounds like you're all going to be training together over the next few months as well.
Oh, yeah, we
That
are,
should be
yeah, and
exciting.
that's one of the things that I just can't believe. I don't think it happens with the, men's race as much. I know they do run together, but with the women, especially in ultra running, everyone's just been so nice and trying to organise recce weekends, and, I know that I could message if I had anything that I needed to know or for any tips or advice, and they'd just be so welcoming in giving the time and the knowledge, really, for the longer races. So it's going to be a great few months building up, and like I said, the women's field in January is unreal.
Yeah, yeah, it absolutely is. That's going to be absolutely brilliant.
I will.
Um, well, obviously, you've got a great field to look forward to. You've got being back amongst, your ultra running peeps to look forward to. What
Yeah.
else are you looking forward to about the full spine? What are you excited about?
Just everything, just the whole thing. I love the Pennine Way. Obviously, I spend a lot of time on the bit round me, and I've gradually been trying to do some little bits of recce's further up. But it's just a great part of the country. It's a great trail. There's going to be so many people out there. I know that every time I get to an aid station, I volunteered at the at Hawes in January this year, so I know what goes on at the checkpoints as well. And everyone's just so nice there. So that'll give you a bit of a boost getting to the next checkpoint, knowing that you're going to get some nice food and see some nice people that all understand what you're going through. And if you're going there whinging a little bit, they'll just be like, go have a nap and get going again. They know what they're doing, don't they?
Yeah, yeah,
And
they've
obviously
been patching up runners a while.
yeah, you and your team as well, all out there and looking out for you guys. It'll just be ace. Can't wait.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to popping out from behind a shrub somewhere with a camera while you're out there on the Pennine Way. It'll be great fun.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah. Well, look, Mel, thanks so much for chatting today. I really appreciate it. And I
That's
knew
all
I was going to enjoy this interview, and I was absolutely right. And yeah, I guess well done on bouncing back from your brain falling out, which is not a sentence I thought I'd ever say to anybody.
No. Thank you very much. Good to speak to you.
Awesome, and I'll see you in January. Good afternoon, then, Chris Cope, and congratulations again, Chris. How are you doing now?
Yeah, doing well. Back into normal life. Don't quite know how I fitted in those 12, 15 hours a week of training. And yeah, it's there's a little bit of a blues feeling after the spine, which I guess is not unusual after a big race, but so many happy, positive memories from it. Yeah, still buzzing is the short answer.
Good. I'm glad, and so you should be. I mean, not to go straight into a downer off the back of that very celebratory sentence there, but you mentioned something interesting, which is I do hear that quite a bit. The post expedition blues. I guess you had a single purpose and you did this enormous thing, and now all of a sudden you've got 12 to 15 hours more spare time than you had at that point, maybe, and that's gone. I mean, how has that been for you?
I've filled it with other things. I think that's the important thing. You can't just stop, and because you actually can end up moping. You've still got to have a focus. And a lot of us ultra enthusiasts, we need a focus. We crave that focus. And so I've just looked at other things: family, DIY, a little bit of cycling, work, and yeah, kept the focus there. But there's always things to remind you of the spine. Doing this is a happy memories brought back.
Oh, good stuff. Well, I mean, I'm glad to hear you've found a way of managing that. I'd like to go back a little bit further than the spine, if you don't mind. I'd like to talk a little bit about how you came to be in this area in the first place, how you came to be an ultra runner. So, if we go back in the midst of time a little bit, were you a naturally sporty young person, or is this level of athleticism something that came to you a bit later than life?
I think this type of athleticism, nobody starts off as a junior doing silly distances.
Not a
But
lot of
definitely-
13-year-old 100-mile runners. No.
Absolutely. I was always a runner, always a runner. I played a little bit of football, but generally, if it involved a ball, I was relatively hopeless at it. Running, cycling, swimming, and the like, I love, but especially the running. And from a very young age, I did track and field when I was at secondary school, cross country, really enjoyed the mud, really enjoyed hurdles and steeplechase, getting wet, jumping over things, which is perfect preparation for the spine race. And yeah, constantly being active. And then it changes. You go to university, you start to build a life. Training, I'm a GP, 10 years of training to do that after A levels. And that takes the time, takes the focus away. And once I became established as a GP, I wanted to get fit and active again to help type 1 diabetic, to help with diabetes, and to be healthy. And so I chose, I'm going to do an Ironman, just like that, which I loved, absolutely loved that. The second 2 parts, the swimming, not so much. But the epiphany was the Brutal Double, which is a double iron distance event in Snowdonia. You go up, the run is up Snowdon and down before running around Limpert Arm a few times. And the sunrise coming down Snowdon was beautiful. And I think that was the bit where I said, why am I swimming? Why not just enjoy more running? And that was the epiphany moment.
Yeah, I can relate to that. I never was much of a keen swimmer myself, but you've obviously stuck with that. And is that part of the draw to ultra running for you? Then is it trying to find those views again, those moments out there in the wild?
Yeah, I guess there's no one thing for me. And for some people, it is absolutely being out there on their own in the middle of Kinder Scout or Snowdonia or the PZS Strip or something. For me, I think I love every little bit of it. I can be very happy running a marathon on a road. I can be very happy doing a short cross-country race, but equally doing 268 miles in one go. You enjoy the moment. I enjoy the moments when I'm on my own. There were times over the Cheviots, which finally we've got some blue skies. It's just beautiful. You're on your own. But then there's other times you're talking to people. You be it other runners or at the checkpoints, and that kind of social bit to it. I do a lot of running with other people in my training, which I think is for me really important. So it is that's it's a social activity as well as being a bit of kind of mindful and good for your mental health.
Yeah, and I suppose you being out there on the course as an athlete, you do get those extended periods where you're on your own as well, which I have to say, I can only imagine not having run any distance on the spine race at all. But, you get that kind of that meditative time, that time to be out there with your own thoughts and just appreciating the process. And then you get to burst into a checkpoint and experience some of the social side of it as well. So, yeah, I mean, great to have you on the spine race. Everyone enjoyed seeing you for that social side of it. And if any of the spine race was a struggle for you, you didn't show it whenever I saw you along the way. Like you seem to just burst into a checkpoint like you were about to attend a lovely dinner party. Like you always seemed fresh. Now, and obviously you finished in sunshine on this glorious sunny day after having blue skies through the Cheviots. That can't be the whole experience, right? Were there some tougher times out there on the trail as well?
Absolutely. Even going over the Cheviots when it was blue skies, there were moments of, oh my God, what's going on here? I was really struggling with some nausea at a point. And one of the great medics at the first hut gave, he knew I was a doctor, and I think he said to me, your choice of anti-sickness tablet. And I thought, well, I don't want Cyprosine because that might make me drowsy. So I'll go for ondansetron. And ondansetron dried my mouth out and made me feel like I was floating, which you would think would be an awesome feeling, because who wouldn't want to be floating at the end of the spine race? But it wasn't quite as calming as that. But yeah, that went, so there's always going to be different bits within a race which present challenges. And I firmly believe that if you have a smile on your face, you're going to be so much better prepared to deal with that challenge than let it blow up into something bigger. So yeah, that smile there truly was because I was having a ball out there, be it in horrific weather as it was at the start and in the middle, or being in the blue skies. I genuinely was having a ball. But equally, it helps you overcome all those times in the midges at checkpoint 5.5. Bless the guys there in their kind of, or they look like they were honey bee workers. Totally, it was any little thing. A smile helps you get over it and surmount it. But no, the majority of the feeling along the spine was good. Part of it is I maintained a pace that I could do, and the number one thing is I kept my nutrition there. And the moment you lose your nutrition, everything starts getting harder. You need the glucose in your brain as much as your legs. And I was lucky that apart from a little bit of a blip in the GPs, my stomach was cast iron, and I kept the feeding going, which helps no end.
Oh God, absolutely. If you can't get any fuel in there, then you can't run that engine, can you? That's you out of the game.
Yeah. And there was always something that you could eat. I mean, I'd got a variety of things in my pack, but then every checkpoint has got a variety of stuff there. You've got the headline things like the lasagna at Alston, there's something coming. But if you can't stomach that, then there's always something else that can be made, got for you, rice pudding, soup, or whatever. And it was an eating competition in a way, but a very, very good one. Very good one.
Amazing. I was almost going to ask you which was your favorite food along the way, but I really don't want to add to any of the rivalry between the checkpoints, because with the rise of the lasagna at Alston, we've now got Teesside tandoori that's popped up. There's a few more in there. So I don't want to start a flame war. So we'll leave that alone.
That's it. I enjoyed every single stop, including the Craven try. The bacon sandwich was awesome there. And that just typifies the support along the spine, doesn't it? It's not just the checkpoints. There's guys along there that beckon you over to the back of the car and open the boot and say, what do you want? And there's a convenience store in the back there. And you say, Turkish Delight. I don't know why, but yeah.
You managed to get a Turkish Delight off somebody along the way.
Yeah, it was at is it Steel Rig on the Hadrian's Wall? I think it's still called Steel Rig. Beckoned me over. They said, we come every year with great spine. We just love it, following it on the tracker. And come to the boot. They've got pot noodles and hot water in flasks there. It's like, seriously, convenience store. These people are great out there. Absolutely great.
I absolutely love that. They're out there at all hours as well, just like the volunteers are. Amazing. Now it's a summer race, but it didn't look like one at the beginning. It did when you got to the end. That made for some delightful photos, but it much rougher early on in the race in particular. Can you just talk us through sort of some of the worst conditions that you went through during the race?
Yeah, absolutely. So you finish and you've got these blue skies, and they're the photos that everyone sees, which belies the truth of what actually happened. Edale, it was dry for the first 35 yards probably, and then just started coming down. And there was a bit after Snake Pass where you're running along a ravine and you're just sliding inside because it's on a bank. You're just sliding into the ravine in the rain. I mean, poles were a bit of a godsend that they snapped and didn't have so much luck with those. And then you get Pen y Ghent. It was pitch black. There was gale, it was hail coming down, and my number got ripped off, and it was just so crazy out there.
I remember you saying about that. Didn't your number get ripped off and blow away, and someone found it and got it back to you?
Yes, somebody found it.
That's
I
why.
heard the story was they found it at Malham, and I know I left it at Penny Ghent. So Lord knows how it got to Malham, but it got handed in to one of the checkpoints, and I think it was at Ulster, and I got it back again, or maybe Middleton got it back again, which is it was windy, and that proves it, doesn't it?
Yeah, it absolutely does. Yeah. That's incredible. What a coincidence.
But I guess that's part of why you can do the same race multiple times, races like this. If you do the 3K steeplechase, it's the 3K steeplechase or the 400 meter hurdles, but the spine is different every time. It's so long, it's so varied, underfoot, what's coming out of the sky, either blue sky and sunshine or hail and gales. And it can change over the course of the race. You've got to be prepared for everything, which just makes it extra challenging, which is why we do it.
Yeah, hence the length of the encyclopedic kit list. I imagine you got through quite a lot of the items on there in that heavy weather.
Yes, it's epically long. I think the winter is much bigger again with the cooking stuff, and but I used most of it, absolutely.
Yeah,
it's there for a reason.
It is that. And I mean, how are you with terrible weather? Like I think there's this idea out there that people might enter the summer race over the winter because they think they're going to get better weather. But if you've done any research, you must have seen that actually the weather can be pretty crap in the summer as well. So I guess, do you prefer to be running in good or bad weather? And what made you decide on the summer race in the first place?
Zero preference weather-wise. I will happily run in the snow, the ice, or in extreme heat. And I've done all of them. I don't think I'm particularly better in one or the other as long as you prepare for it. I knew the summer spine could be different. The reason I chose the summer was because I know most races I do have done, I've recce'd them. The Dragon's Back, I recce'd the whole length before I did it. Actually, this race, I just wanted to go there and just do it. The Pennine Way is a very iconic route that I really knew very little about. And I wanted to see Malham Cove, I wanted to see High Cup Nick, there's so many beautiful sights. And as it turned out, High Cup Nick was in pea soup fog in the middle of the night. And Cove was very similar. But apart from that, I saw everything because you've got so much sunlight, so much daylight during the summer spine. That's not there in the winter. And that was my pure reason for choosing the summer over the winter.
Oh, well, that's marvelous. And, we hear a bit of that. When Ian Keith did the summer, he said the same thing. He's like, I'd like to actually see the Pennine Way for once.
What do you get? Something like 5 or 6 hours of proper light, maybe 7.
On a good day. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. And it's not like the conditions are potentially better or worse. I think when it was frozen bog over the winter, it was probably a lot better than, I think we must have had probably 120 miles of bog. And there was some pretty awful stuff.
Well, I was going to ask about that. In fact, each year in the past, there's been a sort of, this was the snow year, this was the wind year, this was the rain year. The last couple of summer events have been sort of this is just terrible for feet year. Really boggy conditions, really, really humid conditions as well. And it just, an absolute mess of blisters and hot spots and stuff on everybody's feet. Did you experience any of that as well?
Yeah, I think the longer you're out, the more wet your feet have been exposed to. You've got to have come in with a plan, and you've got a tried and tested plan and know how your feet react to that, because everyone's different. And for some people, it's in gingy socks and waterproof socks over the top, and that works for them. For other people, myself, it's about having really well-draining shoes and a single pair of socks. and then changing them as often as you can. The problem is you change them and then you step in another bog half a mile later and you're back to square one. So the checkpoints, first thing I did at every checkpoint was take my shoes and socks off, because you need that half hour or like 2 hours, however long you stop, to get your feet drying. And I generally find I can get rid of most of those ripples on my feet within about 2 hours. So just having your feet airing for 40 minutes is a big positive step. But yeah, it is. It's just, I mean, it was certainly coming up through the old forest that were taken down a couple of years ago after the storms, sort of on the further north. It's just constant. It's absolutely constant. And I guess my smile was starting to wane at times. And when I got to Bellingham, I was so pleased to be there, because the night had been coming in and it just seemed endless fog for about the last 40 miles. And I was so pleased to get to Bellingham, just have an hour of sleep, get my feet dried, and then crack on again. And it was actually much better over the Cheviots, relatively speaking. Still wet, but yeah, definitely better.
Now, glad to hear it. Yeah, the section you've talked about there has always been notorious for being a long area with lots of potential for boggy trails. But since that storm took away half the wood tree cover there as well, a mess. Like you're running through the Somme.
Yes, yeah. 2 years ago, training on Kinder, it was a dust bowl up there, and I haven't been there for 2 years. Unrecognisable just in those 2 years. At the same time of year, it's just, and that's the beauty of never quite knowing what's going to happen and just being adaptable.
Yeah, absolutely. And if the spine race asks for anything, it's adaptability. Now, I'll often ask people a bit about sort of nutrition and stuff like that. How did you manage that through the race? And you sort of touched on it yourself a little while ago. With you, I feel like there's a sort of extra weight to this in you're managing type 1 diabetes while you're out there as well.
Yeah.
We'll get onto that in a sec, because you seem to inspire so many people with what you did. Now, as I said beforehand, it's an odd thing to ask you about, because obviously you can't compare having and not having type 1 diabetes, but did it feel like an extra challenge during the race? Or do have you just developed the skills necessary to manage that throughout a monster event like this?
I think the latter. It's definitely a consideration. It makes everything a little bit more complicated, but I've been type 1 diabetic since I was 13. And so I don't really remember much about particular exercise before that. Certainly after that, when I was on 2 injections a day, it was hard work.
Mm.
The technology now of the glucose monitoring, the insulin pumps, the loop on my phone, which helps me control, makes it so much easier. And I don't know how I used to do this 6 years ago. I managed to, but sometimes I would be very high and feel very unwell. And now it's so the loop helps massively. But I've also learned how my body reacts to certain conditions, duration of exercise, how to manage that. So experience is huge. And I think anyone, a type 1 taking up running, they've got all that learning to do. So start small, go steady, go safe, always have food with you and let somebody know where you are. But for me, it's just been that steady learning curve. And everything, thankfully, went pretty much as smooth as I could have hoped during the spine. And I do think a lot of type 1s, they've already learned the tools for making sure they've got the nutrition, they're focused on their diet, what's going in, that actually it almost lends itself as an extra skill to the spine, because you have got to keep doing that during the spine. And diabetics are already used to eating when they probably don't quite want to, but they've got to because the sugar's going low. So these are a skill that I'm trying to look as a positive on it, but it is it's true.
Well, no, I mean, I was thinking the same thing here, Chris, and I'd been beating around the bush as to how on earth I would word it, because I don't want to say like, oh, so your type 1 diabetes was an advantage to you here. But I was thinking the same thing through. What you are used to is really having to think about what goes into your body and what effect it's going to have and how much of it to have. And I guess you're sort of pre-equipped with a set of skills that any ultra runner needs to develop anyway in order to be successful in a race like this. That feels fair to say.
That's absolutely true. Yeah, yeah. I don't think I get any anabolic help from injecting insulin, as I think certain sprinters probably can, and it has been used as a drug of abuse, if we're honest and open about it. I don't think it gives me anything from that point of view, but it does allow me to live. And without insulin, I wouldn't be here. So I'm very, very thankful for it. But those tools that you talked about, they're vital in ultra running. And so you take that and use it as positive for sure.
I can only imagine what it was like at the time, sort of finding out about the type 1 diabetes. And, I don't want to spend the whole time chatting about this, but do you think 14-year-old you could have imagined that you'd be doing something like this, that you would be able to do this?
No, I don't think 35-year-old me would have been able to imagine I could have done something like this, to be honest. 7 years is a long time. It's a steady process, and it's amazing what the human body can achieve. I truly think it's an incredible machine that if you look after it and keep challenging it, it will keep on giving you more. I'm not sure how much more it can give you than 268 miles. I'm not sure I want to test that, but I think it is. We have incredible bodies, and as long as we look after them, they can do pretty wonderful things with us most of the time.
Well, it was wonderful to see you finish, and it was wonderful to sort of get the opportunity for you to just put those sensors front and center in the photos. And I love sometimes. I love looking through all the comments and stuff under the photos during the spine. I'm obviously putting out most of what goes out there as updates. Sometimes it's less positive, but what a wonderful experience seeing the reaction to you crossing that line. You really seem to inspire so many people. People tagging their friends and telling them to tell their kids about what you've just done. And yeah, I don't think there's a question in here, Chris. This is just me saying that was amazing. And I'm really glad I was there.
Thank you. I truly, I would echo that, in that James Thurlow, who runs the tracking, came up to me at Alston, and I just had 5 slices of lasagna, and each one was better and better. I'm not saying the other checkpoints were equally as awesome, but at Alston, I've been looking forward to the lasagna, looking forward to a shower, and I thought that's going to be a pretty good high point of the race. And then James walked in and said, "You wouldn't believe the amount of positive feedback you're getting from type 1s, and more importantly, parents of type 1s thinking my child now can do." And that was a huge lift. That was one of the biggest points, actually. Strangely, not what I was expecting at all, but a lovely positive thing to come out of it. So saying that well.
Oh, no, absolutely true. And I spent a good while talking to James Thurlow as well during the race, and he really opened my eyes to how much difference you'd made there and how many people you'd inspired there. So, I mean, a thanks to him too, I guess, there as well.
Absolutely.
So moving on from that slightly, I can't end a interview with someone who's done well in the spine race without asking what you might have learned that you could pass on to the spiners that will be coming through in the future. Was there anything that surprised you that you learned along the way? Any core lessons you would pass on as advice to new signups?
I think keep calm at all points and try and keep that smile on your face. Makes it a lot better. If something starts going wrong, because it will, you need to take your time and see it through. I think there's times where your stomach will feel awful. Make sure you found a way around. Take your time, slow down, try something else. Whatever problem comes your way, often there is a way around it. It's just finding it. And the more you practiced in training for that, and that might be night runs on a GPX on your watch that you've not done before, making sure you're absolutely nailing your nutrition in the long runs. Just practice your training as you're going to race. Then you'll have those problems during your training. And when they come up in the race, you'll be better equipped to deal with it. Keep calm. But the number one thing, absolutely enjoy it. It is a cracking event with cracking people running, supporting it. Just enjoy it. It's a pleasure.
Wow, amazing. Well, look, speaking loosely on behalf of the event, I guess it was a pleasure to have you there, Chris. It really was. An absolutely perfect moment when you crossed that finish line. Well done for timing it right and doing it in sunshine and in daylight as well. As a photographer and an ultra running fan, I thank you for that. And yeah, congratulations once again. Well, thanks very much, Mal. And I look forward, hopefully, to speaking to you again at another finish line or on another podcast after you've done something else awesome.
That'd be great. Well, absolutely great. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
No worries. Have a good day.
See you.